Well, our comment section is going to be a paradise meadow after this one. There's a lot of anger out there on the internet about offensiveness, people being offended and people being offended that people are offended. And then there's this, which is just a hopefully funny video list of movie characters who, let's be honest, were a bit rubbish in terms of the whole, racial thing. But hey, if you feel like I'm being a bit too harsh on the white man, then do write in to let me know what a social justice warrior I am at perpetualcycleofanger@void.preciousopinions.com. Well, now that I've already annoyed you, let's move on. I'm Adam from whatculture.com, and here are the 10 most offensive movie characters ever. Number 10, Long Duck Dong. 16 Candles is a much beloved classic and one of the pantheon of John Hughes movies about the awkward joys of youth. It also has a character called Long Duck Dong in it. He's not the most nuanced of characters, as you can probably guess by the fact he has long and dong built right there into his name. Also, a gong plays whenever he appears, in case you've forgotten that he was Asian and that was the joke, his being Asian.
What's happening, hot stuff?
Look, he's a very sweet boy, and what's happening hot stuff is objectively funny, but can we agree that the gong might be a bit too much? Just a bit? Just a bit too racist?
Oh, no more Yankee, my wanky.
Number 9, Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan is one of the most fearsome figures in the history of the world, head of the Mongol Empire, which ranks just under the British Empire in terms of size and being a massive dick to the lands that were conquered to make it. Well, in terms of cinematic portrayals, turns out Whitey wins again. Huzzah! As he was played by John Wayne in the movie The Conqueror, and John Wayne is about as far from a Mongolian as you can get without changing species. Not only was the Asian makeup offensive, but the film didn't even have the mitigating circumstances of being good. The Conqueror is widely regarded as one of the worst films of the 1950s, and the near hilarious miscasting of John Wayne has a lot to do with that. Number 8, Ruby Rhod. Not every character has to be a crude stereotype to be offensive, sometimes they just have to be annoying as piss. Step right up, Chris Tucker, who's built a career on screeching so hard he's sounding like he's prolapsing. Ruby Rhod from The Fifth Element is a mewling id of pure sonic despair. There aren't many things that I hate, Daddy Longlegs, Adam Sandler, Brie, but, and I mean this genuinely, Ruby Rhod so offends my senses that even just thinking about him to record this, I feel like I have to go for a walk to calm down. Number 7, The Crows. Disney are responsible for so much joy, but also they are big fans of broad popular storytelling, communicating characters in the simplest, most immediate way possible, which leads to sometimes things like the Siamese cats, Uncle Remus, and the Native Americans from Peter Pan. These can be somewhat forgiven as being archetypes of the time, but there's something about the crows from Dumbo that just sticks in my craw, pun intended. Sure, their ebonics are very stereotypical, "I've been done seen," etc., but it's something else. It's the fact that their leader is called Jim Crow, as in the Jim Crow laws, which enforced racial segregation in the South. Yeah, for that little joke, Disney, maybe in this case, you can go f*** yourself. Number 6, Skids and Mudflap. Again, maybe these characters wouldn't have garnered such public backlash if they hadn't been in such a huge turd as Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. But they were, and hey, managing to be the worst thing in a film with gigantic robot testicles and Megan Fox is no mean feat. The two robots are supposed to be gangsters, with all their poses, heavy ebonics, saying they don't read much, and one of them having a gold tooth. That's pretty much racist bingo. Putting the car into caricature, and that's really solid material. The internet lost its fruit about the characters, and production shifted blame from the writers to the voice artist to Michael Bay to back to the voice artist, one of them being the white guy who voices SpongeBob, to the VFX team as to who was the most responsible for all that bad racism.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Number 5, Guru Pitka. We need someone to satirize Hindu culture. Quick, call Mike Myers. The Love Guru just has so much going on. Like Ben Kingsley's cross-eyed guru Tuggin Mapuda. Thing is, at least Sir Ben's dad was of Indian descent, whereas a thick Indian accent coming out of absolute Canadian Mike Myers is a little harder to swallow. The portrayal, as well as a bunch of other shenanigans, annoyed Hindu leaders around America, with Rajan Zed saying, "People are not very well versed in Hinduism, so this might be their only exposure. They will think most of us are like that, and you do not want to be compared to gurning monstrosities like the Love Guru. It would literally be better to be compared to a pile of because at least it has uses in the natural world." Number 4, Ramesses and Moses. Exodus, Gods and Kings, aka Ramses vs. Moses, Dawn of Justice, is set in ancient Egypt and has ancient Egyptian lead characters. To play these parts, they hired a Welshman and an Australian. Sorry, that's unfair. Christian Bale prefers to identify himself as English, which is a lot better. At least when The Conqueror was made, he had the excuse of it being in the 19 50s. What's the excuse this time? Well, turns out money, and Ridley Scott put the cherry on the bad cake when he said to the media he wouldn't have got the movie financed if his lead actor had been Mohammed so-and-so from such and such. Now that is PR you just can't buy. Number 3, Mark Watson. Blackface is one of those things that even most SJW hunters can agree is a bad thing. Many people have done it, including greats like Laurence Olivier, Fred Astaire, Bing Crosby, Alec Guinness, and then there's C. Thomas Howell in Soul Man. He plays Mark Watson, who, in order to get an African-American only Harvard scholarship, takes tanning pills to turn his skin black. Cue lots and lots of moments of him doing black things. Black things, black things, setting the world's progress clock back to the 1940s. The film tries to be sweet in the end, and Watson eventually acknowledges his whole white privilege thing, but then again, there's also a bit where he dresses like a pimp, eats watermelon, and says bitch, so not all is forgiven.
What you looking at?
Number 2, Fu Manchu. There's been a lot of people to play Fu Manchu over the years, described by the author as the Yellow Peril incarnate. Guess how many of the actors hired to play the Chinese supervillain were Chinese? Ha! It's not many, mate! He's been played by Christopher Lee, an Englishman, Peter Sellers, an Englishman, Boris Karloff, an Englishman, aren't we just the best? Warner Oland, a Swedish-American. Hey, some diversity! Karloff's portrayal of the Devil Doctor in Mask of Fu Manchu was probably the most offensive. The Chinese embassy in Washington actually launched a formal complaint against the film, citing the moment when Fu Manchu says, "Kill the white man, take his women." That is just delightful. And number 1, Mr. Yunioshi, our Breakfast at Tiffany's, Mickey Rooney's finest hour, and one of the most glaringly racist depictions of a Japanese person this side of World War II American comics. Buck-toothed, narrow-eyed, bumping into things, screaming the word "Police." It's all here, everything you could want. Director Blake Edwards and Mickey Rooney both have expressed regret since making the film, and if anything, Breakfast at Tiffany's is a time capsule of how Hollywood used to be and shows how far we've come. I'm sorry, what's that? Scarlett Johansson is playing a character called Motoko Kusanagi in Ghost of the Shell next year. Well, that's fantastic. And that's our list. Did we miss any out? Tell us about it in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and you can follow me on Twitter here. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and I'll see you soon.